Chapter 1 through 5 covers this first half of the short little book that takes place around the year 465 BC. Ahasuerus is the name of the Persian king who's in charge, and is believed to be King Xerxes, who succeeded King Darius. In the first chapter, you have many banquets. There's so many things that you can pull out interesting to the time period and relate to the overall goal and purpose of the book. The biggest thing is that Esther becomes queen, a Jew who is more or less undercover. Mordecai, who we're told is connected to the tribe of Benjamin and Kish. And then in chapter 3, we're introduced to Haman, who is an Agagite. Now, this connection here goes all the way back to Saul and King Agag. And at the end of chapter 5, we're seeing that the gallows, or that he's meant to be hung on, Haman is trying to hang him in a very public fashion. Really what the scripture says here is that there's a pole that is 75 foot high that he would be impaled and hung upon, again, for public humiliation. Through this first half of the book, the pinnacle really comes in chapter 4, where you see this big plot to murder all the Jews set up by Haman is potentially going to be thwarted by the fact that Esther, who is a Jew herself, has a queen, not only just a queen for the king, but is really the most exalted person in the entire palace, even over that of Haman himself, who is very powerful in the sense of political and military advancement. Some of the dialogue between Mordecai and Esther is absolutely remarkable. Esther says, "If I perish, I perish," as a great The second half of the book of Esther, chapters 6 through 10, you see a reversal and many themes that are exactly opposite of what you see in the first 5. So it kind of starts in reverse order with chapter 6 on through 10. And amazingly enough, the full point and premise of this book is that God himself is not mentioned directly in the book, but you can see throughout, even though the individual actions that are taken may not speak to something that God would advance, that he is sovereign over all the actions that you can see in life. These coincidences, quote unquote, that you would see throughout the book are far too big for it to be just that, a mere coincidence. Chapter 6, you see the gallows that Haman wanted to hang Mordecai on never get realized. The king is unable to sleep, remembers a event that we read about in chapter 2, as he basically being lulled to sleep by this Chronicles of the Kingdom being read, and he sees that Mordecai has saved his life and that nothing was ever done to honor this man. Again, one of these chance coincidences, quote unquote. Haman happens to be in the courtyard just at that moment, coming back to tell the king about his great plan to impale and to kill Mordecai. Of course, this is not what happens. Haman is the one that drafts this great plan, thinking he's going to get to honor himself, and winds up having to honor Mordecai. Again, kind of a reversal of what you see earlier in the book of Mordecai not bowing to Haman. As you go forward, you see in the beginning of chapter 7, Esther step up and do what she has been called to do, exposing this great plot to kill her people, risking her life in that she's exposing herself. She's pitting herself and Haman against the king, kind of forcing the king to pick sides. And immediately you see that certainly God is in her favor. The king storms out, compose himself, and as he comes back in, Haman's begging for mercy, probably kneeling down where Esther's at, and that incites the king even more. He immediately has him hung on the same gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai. In the end, you see more issues being created to allow the people of Israel to defend themselves against all those attackers, and this great victory in a physical kind of battle type sense is really what this whole book commemorates. Why the Jews would celebrate the Feast of Purim, which really is the plural word used for dice. Earlier, when the date is set for the execution of the Jews, Haman and them cast die to specifically pick out the exact date of this great execution of the people. And again, that's drawn out and noted multiple times. And here you see that same word being used as the definition of this celebration that would be ongoing remembrance of this great victory for the people. Of course, God is sovereign. Israel is his beloved people. You can carry this into a number of different directions as you consider New Testament and just the fact of how God's sovereignty plays into our own life. But again, everything in the book should be held up and nothing taken away from it. It's definitely a beautiful work, again, done during the exile period, but having application for us certainly today, and carries a special place within the entire text of Scripture to what it brings to us. Bless you.